A man walked into an auction hall in Scottsdale, Arizona, in January 2017, believing he had found the opportunity of a lifetime. The car sitting beneath the lights appeared to be a genuine 1970 Chevrolet Chevelle SS 454 LS6, one of the most coveted muscle cars ever built. Bidding escalated rapidly, fueled by ambition, competition, and fear of missing out. Within minutes, the hammer fell. More than $150,000 changed hands. Months later, investigators would uncover details that transformed that dream purchase into a costly lesson. But the deception hidden inside that car had begun decades earlier, and it would expose a pattern that had haunted the classic car market for generations. Long before internet auctions and online marketplaces, collectors were already chasing rare machines. During the late 1960s and early 1970s, muscle cars emerged from factories in Detroit, Michigan, and across America. Chevrolet, Pontiac, Dodge, Plymouth, Buick, and Ford competed for dominance. Dealers advertised horsepower figures that sounded almost unbelievable. Young buyers dreamed of owning the fastest machines on the road. What few people realized was that rarity would eventually become more valuable than speed itself. By the early 1980s, collectors had begun searching for surviving examples of special performance models. Prices started rising. Ambition entered the market. Then greed followed close behind. A question quietly emerged among dishonest sellers. If a rare car could sell for 10 times the value of an ordinary version, what stopped someone from creating a fake? The answer seemed simple at first. Vehicle identification numbers, factory paperwork, trim tags, and production records stood between truth and deception. Yet as values climbed higher, those safeguards became targets. In 1985, a collector in Southern California believed he had purchased an authentic 1969 Camaros ZL1, one of the rarest Camaros ever produced. Documentation appeared legitimate. The restoration looked flawless. Experts praised the car at local shows. For years, nobody questioned its authenticity. Then a small inconsistency surfaced. A researcher comparing factory records noticed a discrepancy in production details. The finding seemed insignificant, but it pointed toward a larger mystery. When investigators traced ownership history backward through multiple states, critical records appeared to vanish. Each missing document raised another question. How could a car with such a prestigious history leave behind so few traces? The answer would not emerge immediately. Instead, the trail led collectors into a hidden world where paperwork often became more valuable than the vehicle itself. Throughout the 1980s, rare muscle cars surged in value. Auctions in locations such as Indianapolis, Indiana, and Kissimmee, Florida, attracted growing crowds. Collectors competed aggressively for limited production models. Sellers understood that originality meant money. And wherever money gathered, deception followed. Some fraudsters focused on cloning. They purchased ordinary versions of desirable cars and transformed them into apparently rare examples. New badges appeared. Special engines were installed. Paint colors matched factory specifications. To casual observers, the deception seemed perfect. But one detail often remained hidden. Factory records told stories that paint and chrome could never erase. Many buyers never bothered to verify those stories. By the early 1990s, stories circulated among collectors about cars that seemed too perfect. Restorations appeared immaculate. Histories sounded extraordinary. Owners claimed celebrity connections, racing pedigrees, or factory prototypes. Every claim increased value. Every detail fueled bidding wars. Yet certain experts noticed a troubling trend. The more spectacular the story, the harder it often became to verify. One collector in Texas proudly displayed what he believed was a rare 1971 Plymouth Hemi-Cuda. The car attracted attention everywhere it appeared. Crowds gathered around it. Magazine photographers documented it. Potential buyers lined up with offers. Then an inspection uncovered something unexpected. The vehicle identification number appeared genuine at first glance, but under magnification, investigators found signs that portions had been altered. Tiny marks hidden beneath paint suggested someone had changed history itself. That discovery raised another disturbing possibility. If one number could be altered, how many other famous cars carried hidden identities? The answer frightened serious collectors. As prices accelerated through the 1990s, scammers became increasingly sophisticated. Some forged dealership invoices. Others manufactured counterfeit broadcast sheets. Fake ownership histories emerged from nowhere. Documents that appeared decades old were sometimes only months old. Yet buyers continued paying extraordinary sums. Fear of losing a dream car often overwhelmed caution. A collector attending an auction in Auburn, Indiana, during the late 1990s later admitted he never fully reviewed the paperwork attached to a six-figure purchase. The opportunity felt too important. The competition felt too intense. Every bidder around him appeared convinced of the car's authenticity. Only later did questions begin appearing. Why were ownership records incomplete? Why did maintenance documents suddenly begin years after the car supposedly entered private collections? Why did previous owners seem impossible to locate? Each question opened another layer of uncertainty. Meanwhile, a far larger threat was quietly emerging. While collectors focused on visible modifications and forged documents, a different form of deception was spreading through restoration shops across North America. Unlike VIN fraud or cloned muscle cars, this scam could hide inside a vehicle for decades before anyone noticed. And when investigators finally exposed how it worked, even experienced collectors discovered they had been looking in the wrong direction all along. The restoration shop looked respectable from the outside. Fresh signage hung above the entrance. Awards decorated the walls. Customers saw polished classics lined up beneath bright lights and assumed they were witnessing craftsmanship. What they could not see were the secrets buried beneath paint, filler, and chrome. By the time those secrets emerged, fortunes had already changed hands. As the classic car market expanded during the early 2000s, restoration quality became one of the most powerful drivers of value. Buyers paid premiums for vehicles described as frame-off restored, numbers matching, or factory correct. Those phrases carried enormous financial weight. But a troubling question began circulating among experienced inspectors. What if the restoration itself was part of the scam? The answer surfaced repeatedly across the United States. Collectors purchasing seemingly flawless cars discovered hidden rust concealed beneath fresh metal. Structural damage had been disguised. Corroded frames had been repaired just enough to survive inspections. In some cases, vehicles assembled from multiple donor cars were presented as authentic originals. One investigation in the Midwest uncovered a muscle car that appeared perfect from every angle. The paint reflected like glass. The engine bay looked factory fresh. Judges praised the workmanship. Then a magnet exposed something unexpected. Large sections of body filler were hiding extensive corrosion underneath. That discovery seemed shocking enough, yet it revealed only part of the story. Investigators soon realized certain restoration shops were exploiting a dangerous reality. Most buyers focused on appearance. Few demanded detailed photographic evidence documenting every stage of the restoration process. And that created opportunity. The more spectacular the finish, the easier it became to distract buyers from what remained hidden beneath it. Meanwhile, another form of deception was spreading through the collector world. Odometer fraud. Many enthusiasts assumed odometer tampering belonged to ordinary used car scams of previous decades. Yet rare classics presented unique opportunities. A car showing 18,000 original miles could command dramatically higher prices than an identical example showing 118,000 miles. The temptation proved irresistible for some sellers. By the mid-2000s, auction experts increasingly encountered vehicles with mileage claims that seemed difficult to reconcile with ownership histories. Service records contradicted odometer readings. Inspection stickers revealed inconsistencies. Registration documents raised questions. Yet buyers continued bidding. Ambition often moved faster than verification. One collector purchased a highly desirable 1967 Corvette after reviewing documentation indicating extremely low mileage. The records appeared convincing. The story sounded credible. Months later, an overlooked maintenance receipt surfaced. The document suggested the vehicle had accumulated substantially more miles years earlier than the current odometer displayed. Suddenly, the narrative collapsed. But even that was not the most sophisticated scheme emerging inside the market. The arrival of online marketplaces transformed classic car sales forever. Geographic barriers disappeared. Buyers in Florida could purchase vehicles from California, Texas, New York, or even overseas without ever seeing them in person. Convenience created opportunity. Opportunity created vulnerability. Scammers quickly adapted. Photographs became powerful weapons. Strategic camera angles concealed flaws. Old images were reused. Some listings displayed entirely different vehicles than the ones being sold. Others relied on forged documentation transmitted electronically, making verification more difficult. A buyer might wire tens of thousands of dollars before realizing something was wrong. By then, the seller could disappear. Yet investigators tracking these schemes noticed a recurring pattern. Whether the scam involved fake restorations, mileage manipulation, forged documents, or deceptive listings, nearly every fraud depended on one critical weakness. The buyer trusted a story. And hidden deep within the collector market was an even more dangerous deception, one involving titles, identities, and legal records so convincing that some fraudulent cars crossed state lines for years without detection. When authorities finally exposed how title washing operated, collectors realized that ownership papers themselves could become instruments of betrayal. A stack of official documents can inspire confidence faster than almost anything else in the collector car world. Titles carry authority. Registration records suggest legitimacy. Ownership histories create trust. Yet by the late 2000s, investigators across multiple states were discovering a disturbing reality. Some of the most dangerous scams no longer depended on altering the car. They depended on altering its identity. The warning signs were subtle at first. Collectors would encounter vehicles with unusually clean paperwork despite decades of ownership changes. Certain records seemed incomplete. Some histories appeared too perfect. Yet few buyers questioned documents issued by government agencies. That assumption became a powerful weapon. Title washing had existed in various forms for decades, but rising classic car values made the practice increasingly profitable. Fraudsters exploited differences between state record systems. Damaged, stolen, salvaged, or reconstructed vehicles could sometimes be moved through multiple jurisdictions until critical information disappeared from the paperwork trail. A buyer examining the final title often saw only a clean history. What remained hidden was the journey that title had taken. Investigators studying several cases during the 2010s uncovered vehicles that had crossed multiple states before reappearing with dramatically altered records. Some had suffered severe accident damage years earlier. Others contained replacement components from entirely different vehicles. The paperwork told one story. The metal told another. and few buyers knew which story to trust. Then an even larger threat emerged. Online auctions exploded in popularity. Collectors no longer needed to travel to Scottsdale, Arizona, Kissimmee, Florida, or Monterey, California, to participate in major sales. From home offices and living rooms, buyers could compete for dream cars located thousands of miles away. The convenience seemed revolutionary, but distance created opportunity for deception. A seller could carefully photograph only favorable angles. Video clips could avoid problem areas. Documentation could be selectively presented. Small inconsistencies disappeared behind excitement, competition, and urgency. The same emotions that fueled great auctions also fueled costly mistakes. Fear of losing a rare opportunity often overwhelmed rational analysis. One bidder would see rising offers and assume others had verified the vehicle. Another would trust previous bidders. Soon, an illusion of confidence formed around a car that few people had truly investigated. And that illusion could become extremely expensive. Industry experts increasingly emphasized independent inspections. Professional authentication services grew in importance. Factory records became essential. Historical registries expanded. Collectors learned to compare casting numbers, production dates, VIN sequences, trim tags, ownership histories, and restoration photographs. Yet even these safeguards revealed a troubling truth. The scams kept evolving. Every new verification method inspired new attempts to defeat it. Forged invoices became more convincing. Counterfeit documents became harder to detect. Digital editing tools improved. Artificial aging techniques made modern paperwork appear decades old. The battle between authenticity and deception never truly ended. Then came the realization that shocked many veteran collectors. Some of the most successful frauds were not committed by strangers. They involved respected sellers, trusted intermediaries, or individuals operating within established collector networks. Reputation alone could no longer guarantee honesty. That discovery transformed how experienced buyers approached the market. Trust remained important. Verification became essential. Looking back across decades of collector history, from the muscle car boom of the 1980s to the online marketplace era of the 2020s, the pattern becomes impossible to ignore. Every major scam exploited the same human weaknesses. Greed encouraged shortcuts. Ambition encouraged risk. Competition encouraged haste. Fear of missing out encouraged silence when questions should have been asked. And the consequences could last for years. A forged VIN could follow a car forever. A counterfeit history could inflate values until reality finally surfaced. A hidden structural defect could transform a prized investment into a financial burden. A washed title could conceal a past that no amount of polishing could erase. The lesson is both simple and unsettling. The most dangerous part of a classic car scam is rarely the forged document, altered number, or deceptive listing. It is the moment a buyer stops asking questions. Because somewhere tonight in a private garage at an online auction or beneath bright lights on a showroom floor, another vehicle is waiting for its next owner. Its story appears convincing. Its paperwork seems complete. Its restoration looks flawless. And just as countless collectors discovered before, the detail that matters most may be the one nobody has noticed yet.